This week we visit Chef Tim at the Lancaster Smokehouse, one of the most iconic and delicious restaurants in Kitchener-Waterloo. That looks real good. I feel like I'm the least qualified person to be doing a food show.
We should put you up to some kind of challenge. We should make you start developing a menu, and you should be the final episode of this season's shoot.
I think downtown Kitchener has had a bad rap for a long time.
The chefs in Kitchener-Waterloo have a little bit of like a inferiority complex with a big city.
That's the chef in you, that's the human in you.
This was so good.
It's beautiful.
This is an example of a perfect food.
I feel like I'm the least qualified person to be doing a food show. My 8 years of Outback Steakhouse experience.
Yeah, I don't know how you get qualified. Lots of like comedians end up with food shows. No one ever has food show quality experience.
So where are we headed today?
The Lancaster Smokehouse, which is a favorite of mine.
The best wedding meal, or at least top 3. I've had some pretty good wedding meals in my life as a wedding photographer. But I would say, no, I'm gonna call it the best. So outdoor wedding, tent, Lancaster Smokehouse food truck, rolls up right beside the tent.
So I got to cater the general's daughter's wedding, and I borrowed a bunch of his staff to do it. It was a lot of fun, but the midnight table, we rolled out the food truck. So the food truck showed up and we did like a poutine bar, build your own poutine kind of buffet, and it was awesome. So the general, the guy who founded the place and still owns it with his family, Chris Corrigan, he is a dear friend, and he spends a lot of his time traveling through any part of the southern states, and he started his foray into the food business just doing barbecue competitions and stuff like that. And enough friends told him he should start catering, and he did start catering, and then before you knew it, he had hogtails, which of course then turned into the Lancaster Smokehouse.
This place is packed.
I know, it always is. Like, it's crazy how busy this place is.
Wow. The smell they pump into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
All right.
Watch it out.
Today we're gonna make a smothered rabbit dish, super like traditional southern comfort food, and then we're gonna follow that up with a shrimp and grits. It's very
You leave yourself wide open for lots of jokes at the table though with a thing like that.
With the smothered?
Yeah.
When I make menu items, I think joke first.
Where it's gonna go.
Food second. Yeah, exactly. What can I do with it? Half of our menu we do like brisket, ribs, sausage, all that good barbecue. And then the other part of our menu is southern classics, I like to say. So fried chicken, chicken and waffles, jambalaya, gumbo, all that kind of stuff. So it's like very Louisiana. It's a one-pot dish, and you kind of build your way through it. We'll make a roux from the pan. So we're gonna take the little bits that get stuck on the bottom, we'll add some oil and flour, we'll make like a dark roux.
We didn't make anything like this at Outback Steakhouse.
No?
No.
Just bloomin' onions, that's all. I was
That's a
yeah.
Smothered kangaroo.
Oh yeah.
That would
We
kill
didn't
it.
have any kangaroo. I was the leading Canadian bloom maker though. There was a competition.
In all of Canada.
All of Canada, which is only like 8 restaurants.
Still though.
I was the best.
I have 4 restaurants and I'm not the best at anything in any of them. That's pretty good, man. A lot of bloomin' onions go out.
Yeah, I cooked a lot.
The biggest thing about a smothered dish is kind of building it in that one pot. So starting where you have all of that like really dark fond on the bottom of the pot, and then you deglaze that, and then you make a roux, and it's just like building layers and layers. So I'm happy with that. Looking for a lot of that browning at the bottom, and I don't want it to get super burnt because I don't want it to get bitter. Even though when you make a dark roux, It does have definitely a bitter component to it. Do you want to hit the heat on that, Nick? Just turn it off.
Pretty good in the kitchen.
Like, you don't see a whole lot of butter in Southern cooking. You see a lot of oils.
Really?
Peanut oil, canola oil,
yeah.
obviously. Peanut oil is a big one. Okay.
Such a humble beginning for this dish, eh? Like,
Oh, 100%.
it's like a lot of folks might throw that out.
Yeah.
But that's where the base of this whole dish is going to
Yeah,
come
that's
from.
where like all the flavor starts. And when you think of it like when you smother anything, it's so cheap. It's oil, it's flour,
Right.
it's some of the stock that you made with the animal that you're cooking. You can always add flour. It's obviously more difficult to work with something that's already thick, so I start with just a little bit.
That's whenever I make a bechamel sauce, I never use a recipe because I'm like, it's just bechamel.
Exactly.
And I always end up with way more than I wanted because I have to thin it out so much.
I made mac and cheese for dinner on Monday night, and I've been eating it for 3 days because I was like, this got out of hand.
There's worse things in life though.
Yeah.
A lot of cooks would be scared right now. Like a lot of less experienced cooks would be freaking out.
Yeah, you'd think this looks like a horror show.
Yeah, but-
And it kind of does to start. So we have some hot peppers here, farm up the road. Nick actually introduced me to them, the Stavanis family. So they have all these peppers that they're trying to get rid of right now. So I went down and hung out with them for about an hour last week, and nobody really knows what all these are. I know that there's a red jalapeno in there, way better than green jalapenos. I don't know why that's not a thing, but red jalapeno. I think there's a banana pepper. There's a little finger chili.
I think there's cayenne.
Yeah, there's a cayenne. So it's gonna be hot.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a bump in their crop, so they farm like, I don't know, probably 40 different things on their vegetable farm, and every once in a while they have a huge bump in a crop, so you're overwhelmed with zucchini or beans or whatever, but this year it was their hot pepper plants have just been like delicious, but also like they just won't stop producing.
It's a positive problem.
Yeah, it is, but then it's like, where do you go with them all?
It smells like the South.
Yeah.
That's like what New Orleans restaurants smell like.
Yeah.
That and cigarettes. Let that come up to heat, and then we'll add the rabbit, and then we cover it. And that's kind of the essence of the dish. It's gonna hang out for a little while and braise, and then we'll just serve it on some really buttery, fluffy white rice. Does any restaurant in the world have an actual lid for any pot?
I have a couple, but they don't match.
So now we're gonna make shrimp and grits. It's like an iconic, classic Southern dish. This is a variation on a John Kern's recipe, who's one of my favorite Southern chefs. It's really crazy, and it's one of those recipes that sounds like they made a typo. It's a liter of shrimp stock, a liter of veal stock, 2 liters of Worcestershire sauce.
2 liters?
2 liters. What? And then I kind of change it up by using some fresh herbs, some bay leaves, some of our Tabasco pulp that we order in special for us. So it's literally just like the press from when they make Tabasco sauce that we get.
I gotta taste that. 2 liters of Worcestershire.
Now, it's crazy right now. It's really bitter, and it's crazy pungent. We finish it with like a ridiculous amount of cream and butter, and it really brings it together. While that's working, we can get our shrimp working as well. If I can get the burner to turn on.
I can't believe any flavor comes through
With all the Worcestershire.
past 2 liters of Worcestershire sauce, but it does. The shrimp's really there. That's
right.
good.
That one's not working. That's that.
This is the chef's constant
This is like
nightmare.
and I don't smoke, so I don't have a lighter
none
at
of
my
us do
disposal all
anymore.
the time. All right, I need a lighter.
What do we do?
Who has a lighter?
Or a piece of paper.
Come on, you have to smoke.
I don't smoke.
You're hosting a TV show on cooking.
I don't smoke. I care about my health. Can't we rip a piece of cardboard box off over there?
Yeah, here.
When your cooks have lighters and don't smoke too, then you know they're potheads. And they're like, no, I do it for pilot lights. And you're like, I've been you. I know what's going on.
So I've got some of our shrimp here. I just grabbed this from the New City Market downtown this morning. I kind of go there whenever I need like a small quantity of anything. They have like really good fresh seafoods. So it's just some black tiger shrimp. We're gonna get a really hard sear on it. So I'm just gonna season it really lightly with some salt and pepper.
I think I've lived my entire life up to this point thinking that grits meant girls raised in the South. 'Cause that's what my dad used to say.
What's this in front of me, Tim?
Yeah, so we just have our 3-meat platter here. So we got our 14-hour smoked pulled pork, our beef brisket, pork ribs, coleslaw and baked beans with our house honey cornbread. Yeah, and then we got our smothered rabbit right here. So I think it turned out pretty nice. We'll see how hot those peppers were. We'll see in a minute.
All right, I think we can start again. I don't even know what to go for here.
Just go for rice.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. Yeah, I know, right?
Is
Just like I remember it.
You've never had them.
This is almost it. I never get the pulled pork. I always get the pigtails. Ribs, pigtails, maybe wings. Always the pigtails, though.
So Kitchener-Waterloo, how are we different than a big city like Toronto? Like, why do you choose to live and work here?
I mean, the real reason is I'm from here. I went to school here. I lived in Toronto for about a year, but for the most part, I just kind of stuck to home. But I would say, I think Nick would probably agree. Maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, the food scene here wasn't anything to be too proud of. And then a lot of the smaller kind of family-owned, operated places popped up. So us and a lot of Nick's restaurants and Hogtails, the Grand Trunk Saloon, all those kinds of places. So it's really become a good food city, and I think it's getting better, kind of like day after day.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I always talk about too is how easy it is to be a real chef here. Like in KW, we can connect with farmers in such a real way and actually get to know them. Like I introduced you to a farmer recently via email, and you went to their farm because you could. It's 5 minutes up the road.
It was 3 kilometers away.
Yeah, so we're so lucky that way, and a lot of other chefs in bigger cities struggle to make that connection legitimate, right?
Yeah.
They want to do it, and it's not a knock against them, but it's a lot easier for us to do here.
I think sometimes the chefs in Kitchener-Waterloo have a little bit of like an inferiority complex with a big city.
Yeah.
And I think for the reason that Nick just said, we really shouldn't have that. We're able to go and get our own stuff and meet our own vendors and actually deal with them on a day-to-day basis. I like all of my produce guys, I text them or they call me a couple times a week, or I'll see them in the morning when they're unloading everything, versus just coming off of a food terminal truck, which unfortunately I think the bigger city, that's probably a little more reality than me and Nick have to deal with.
Yeah.
So everything's a little bit more personal, and you actually feel connected to the community here.
Totally, and it's not an forced thing. It's a natural thing. Like it does still happen in bigger cities, but I don't know. It just feels part of the fabric of KW that we've got a long tradition of being an agricultural community, and like with the Mennonite culture so nearby, it's just a no-brainer, and it happens naturally. Like it's pretty cool. I often talk to chefs from bigger cities who do more, let's say, noteworthy things and get a lot of attention for them, but we're doing it real here, and it's just part of our fabric, and so are our neighbors at home. Like, it's not just kitchens that are doing it, right? But it's real people going to farmers markets, buying food, knowing where their food comes from. And when you have a connection to your grits or whatever product it is, the colored greens here I know are a big thing. When you have a connection to them and you tell that story to your chefs in the back, everyone puts so much more care into preparing that dish than they might have if it just, like you said, came off the back of a truck. So it pays dividends, right?
Well, we were discussing this in a staff meeting recently about how we almost don't, on our end, we almost don't even push the local factor as much as maybe we could or should.
Yeah.
And it's because it's almost second nature. It's like, you don't have to go and brag that we're getting this stuff down the road. We actually are. And it just makes more sense, right? Peppers are down the road, or collard greens, or potatoes, or onions, or even a lot of the meat sometimes. Then that's what we're going to use.
Yeah, I agree. We should do more bragging.
Yeah.
So what every big city kind of aspires to though, is to do what we're just kind of naturally doing here.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. How's a rabbit?
Really good.
Yeah.
Great balance of heat. It's not too spicy at all. Everyone's afraid to eat the ribs there.
Yeah.
You can't eat ribs on TV.
It's hard.
It's a tough business, right? Like the food industry is, ask Nick, he'd know better than anybody around here. Like it's such a tough industry. You have to really pour your heart and soul into it. So I think you have to care about everything, because you have to make every little decision based off of, like, whether it's your last, right? Just because you're that passionate about everything that goes into it, right? Yeah. So I wouldn't be doing it, and I'm sure Nick wouldn't be doing it if we were buying crappy ingredients and just being uninspired and not really transforming them in any sort of way.
Yeah, it doesn't pay well enough for that. Like, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, why are you doing it? Because it's not an easy way to make a living, and even when you're successful at it, it's still nothing like. It doesn't pay a lot of money, so you have to be passionate about it. But that's what makes it fun too, is any cook you have stay with you for longer than a month clearly enjoys it and is passionate about it, so they're fun to work with, right? And And actually the same is said for farmers. All these local farmers we deal with are not millionaires. Like they do it because they care, and they're so proud to show you. Like you going out to the Spanish farm was really cool because they would have been so tickled to be able to show you stuff, and Dale to be able to show you what he does.
Yep.
It's a passion-driven game for sure.
We get a lot of our produce from, they're called 100 Mile Produce out of Belgrave, and it's ran by Farmer Rob, we call him. And just yesterday, he was sending me all these pictures of the tomatoes on the vine. Yeah. We're going to be introducing a fried green tomato dish soon. So he was sending me him like little memes of him picking the tomato while it's still green, so it doesn't turn red and everything.
So we'll come back for fried green tomatoes.
Come back for fried green tomatoes. Yeah.
Amen.
Oh my god.
Cheers, Tim.
Thanks for coming, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Next week, we're headed to the Grand Trunk Saloon in downtown Kitchener. See you then.